This video is going to be used to help you see some things with data collection that you probably would miss because nobody really is training you how to look at the data. I've seen after grading homework from Module 5 that a lot of you have chose not to use Excel to do some of the powerful things Excel will do. For example, some of you have chose to simply type the words this way until you say, okay, I have all of the categories. And then when you go and you do this and you want to use an Excel an Excel function to do the counting, you're going to do the Countif function like I displayed in other places, and you're going to have it count excellent. Why did it come up 0? Right? In other words, I hard-coded this word excellent in here. It looks like this word excellent over here, but why didn't it count that that's the same word? Let me show you something that you would probably miss. This excellent has a white space behind it. In other words, somebody pushed the space bar when they entered this data. Notice that very good does not, and poor doesn't. But everywhere the word excellent shows up, there's a white space behind it. And so by hard coding, I miss the fact that there's a white space behind excellent. I've got a couple of things I could do. One is I could avoid doing the hard coding like I showed, or let me show it again here really quick. I could do this and I wouldn't have the problem. Copy, copy. Let me just select, make sure I've selected only the data, and I go to the word data, and I'm going to remove all of the duplicates, and that's all of a sudden there it is. Now notice on this excellent that there's a white space behind it, just like there is in this one. A good reason to let Excel do the dirty work. Okay. Now if I go in and use a Countif function, if I can spell it, equals Countif, and I highlight all my words, F4, so I make it an absolute reference, tell it to look for poor. Notice that I get all the counts. Now I get all those counts, again, because I didn't do any hard coding. The hard coding doesn't recognize the difference between the excellence in these two cells. Well, they're not different now, but if I had typed that in, I had not put that extra space at the end, which it has when I do let Excel do the work. Okay, well, a number of things I could do to get rid of that space, but that's really, I guess, not the subject that I'm wanting to do right now. What I want you to do is stop doing the hard coding. Hard coding, for example, in a table would be, I didn't use the count function. Instead, I went through and I did my own physical counting, and I said, oh, there's 62 of those. Okay, let me put in 62. That cell, when I push F2, refers to absolutely nothing that involved my data. Why is this an issue? Well, what if I were to say, oh, that average right there was really supposed to be poor? All of a sudden, it updates all by itself. And so I don't have to do any updating. But if I hard code, I got the wrong number sitting here. So hard coding bad, letting Excel do the work good. That's my main thrust for now. Now, again, another way to get by this is to use the pivot table, because the pivot table will correctly get rid of that white space. So I use a pivot table, I want to put it in this location, okay. I can just put the ratings in there, all of a sudden I have all of my unique ratings. Look, there's that white space again that we were missing when we hard coded. All right, I want to put the ratings in here so I can get the, values in the table, and there's my counts. The only bad thing, or if I were to compare pivot tables to the Countif function, the pivot table is very static, meaning if I go in and I change something from poor to very good, I didn't get an update in my pivot table. I didn't get an update because pivot tables don't automatically update. I have to manually refresh pivot tables. Okay? So, good news, Countif is very dynamic. Any change in my data set and my Countif function will capture it. In my pivot table, very, very fast, very, very efficient. Bad news, it will not automatically update. Good news, I can refresh it when needed. Okay? Hopefully this helps so that you understand when I keep saying stop hard coding. You know why I'm saying stop hard coding. It's very, very important, especially as your Excel spreadsheets become more complex, that any information be entered in only one spot ever, and all the other times you refer back to where you entered. So if you want to get an average, or you refer back to the original data. If you want to do a count, you refer back to the original data. Always back to the original. And here's the reason why. If I have to make a change, I make the change in the original data, and Excel updates everything. Unless, of course, it's a pivot table, and then you go in and refresh the pivot table, and it will update automatically. So, thank you. I hope this is helpful.